Thank you for that very warm welcome. And John, thank you very much for the kind introduction. It's a great pleasure to be here again tonight with you in Orange County. Watching that speech was almost as fun as giving it. I have to say, though, that my remarks about Senator Reid on the Senate floor that you just saw, those were the restrained and measured version of what I think. I've gotten less hot-tempered. I've mellowed out some in my old age. My wife usually is the one who puts the governor on me in moments like that. So when she texted me and said, "Great job, honey," I knew I'd done an okay job. It is great to be here with you tonight. It's great to be celebrating Flag Day. The Orange County GOP is famous throughout the country. Fred, you've done a great job. Even though you've had some big shoes to fill, Scotty Boz. And John, this has been a wonderful event tonight. And congratulations as well to Sean Steele for winning the Tom Fuentes Award. An award that's named after a man who himself did so much for the Republican Party here in Orange County and California and all across our country. So I had a speech prepared tonight to celebrate the Republican Party. And there's a lot to celebrate. Just look at the gains we've made over the last 8 years. We went from 40 seats in the Senate to now 54 seats, the second most we've had in almost 90 years. Gone from 178 seats in the House to 247 seats, the most since 1930. Just 8 years ago, we had 21 governors. Just 8 years ago, we only had 21 governors. Today, 34 Republicans are governors in this country. And maybe most amazing of all, we only had 37 legislative chambers out of 99 in this country 8 years ago. Today, we control 68, over 2/3 of all legislative chambers in this House, which provide the farm team for the next generation of American leaders. I also came prepared to peel the bark off the president and the Democratic nominee for president. And that speech indicated that I might be able to do that. And I'm going to give that speech tonight. It feels somewhat inappropriate, maybe even a little small, in light of the attacks on the other side of our continental nation. Here in Orange County, California, we are celebrating Flag Day, a symbol of what America stands for. But in Orange County, Florida, they are mourning the worst terrorist attack on U.S. soil since 9/11 itself. Our minds are full and our hearts are heavy as we mourn with them. And it's important on an occasion like this to remember that the Democrats are our opponents, but they are not our enemies. The Democrats are our fellow Americans. Our enemies are radical Islamic jihadists, and they would kill us all regardless of party or creed if they could. It's also important on an occasion like this to remember the police officers, the sheriff's deputies, the special agents, and other peace officers who risk their lives to keep us safe. Without their skill and bravery this morning, according to reports, several dozen more Americans would have been killed. Believe me, there are few things more fearful than kicking down the door when you know gunmen are on the other side of the door ready to kill you. We owe them all a great debt of gratitude. As it is, though, there are still 50 dead, and more than that wounded in critical condition. We've seen stories of great heroism and heartbreak today. A SWAT team officer on the initial assault was shot in the head, his life saved only by his helmet. Pickup trucks being turned into makeshift ambulances as the emergency responders were overwhelmed by the carnage. A mother crying on the street, trying to locate her son. Cell phones ringing on dead bodies inside the club as the police walk through. Families frantically trying to reach their loved ones. Calls that would go unanswered forever. These scenes today were particularly gruesome, but they are also all too familiar. From 9/11 itself, to the Boston Marathon, to the Little Rock recruiting station, to the Chattanooga recruiting station, to Fort Hood, to San Bernardino, and now to Orlando. The one consistent thing in all these attacks, they were conducted by radical Islamists who hate us and want to kill us. They don't hate us for anything we have done in the world or here at home. They hate us for who we are. They hate us for what that flag symbolizes. After all, who besides America has done more to save Muslim lives around the world? In Iraq, twice. In Afghanistan, in Bosnia, in Somalia, in countless humanitarian relief and rescue missions after natural disasters in Muslim lands. Muslims around the world have no greater friend than the United States of America and the American people. So they don't hate us for what we do. They hate us for who we are. We are freedom's home and we are freedom's defender. We believe that America is a special place, that America is in fact exceptional, and that America is not only a place, but it is an idea. We believe that all men are created equal in the eyes of God and therefore in the eyes of the law, man and woman, black and white, young and old. We believe that all men have natural rights to life, liberty, property, the fruits of their labor, and that neither a government nor a democratic majority can take those things away. We believe that governments are created to serve us, the people, not the other way around, and not a perverted ideology. And we believe these things not just like abstract ideals, but something that we are willing to fight for. And we know, like Martin Luther King Jr. said, that if there is nothing worth fighting and dying for, then there is nothing worth living for. Now, our enemy, these radical Islamic savages, they fundamentally reject all of this. They seek to impose a totalitarian theology on the entire world. And if you doubt their ambition, let me tell you this. A man named Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi is the caliph, the supreme leader of the Islamic State. He was detained by American forces in the last decade of war in Iraq, and he was released. And when he was released, he told his American captors, "I will see you guys in New York." They have no regard for human life, and they will kill anyone and everyone who does not submit to them and their radical theology. Now we know this terrorist pledged allegiance to the Islamic State. We don't know for sure that he targeted a gay nightclub because it was gay, but it's a safe assumption. After all, the Islamic State throws gays off the tops of buildings. The Ayatollahs in Iran hang gays from construction cranes solely because of who they are. And that's only the tip of the iceberg of their wickedness. The Islamic State enslaves women, treating them as if they were cattle. Some of these radical Islamic clerics would rather see schoolgirls burn to death inside a school on fire rather than see them escape without being fully robed. The Islamic State crucifies Christians merely for believing in the gospel of Jesus Christ. Hamas and Hezbollah, radical terrorist groups on Israel's border, launch continual attacks against the Jewish people and their right to exist in the Holy Land. Iran's Ayatollahs chant death to America and death to Israel almost every Friday, and they launch ballistic missiles inscribed with the words, "Israel must be wiped out." These radicals even will murder other Muslims who don't live up to their warped, fanatical ideology. They have an offer to us here in the United States and the West which is simple: submit or die. I would suggest that perhaps it's time to turn that around and say to these terrorists, submit or die. Submit to the civilized world and allow us all to live in peace and security, or you will be marked for death by the United States of America. Islamic State prophets foretell an apocalyptic battle with the forces of Christendom on the plains outside a small town in the northern Levant called Dabiq. Perhaps I would suggest it is time that we give it to them, if that's what it takes to live in peace and security in the United States. This struggle will not be short, and it will not be easy. And during this struggle, we will need the qualities embodied in the colors of that flag: white, purity; blue, vigilance, perseverance, justice; and red, maybe most of all, hardiness and valor. The flag will be much with us in these coming days, and it will symbolize many different things. It will symbolize sacrifice, like the flag that I have in my office back in the United States Senate, that I removed from the remains of a fallen soldier. Between my tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, I served at the Old Guard at Arlington National Cemetery. We performed regular funerals in the cemetery. We performed ceremonies in the Capitol area. Unfortunately, in those days, we also had to perform, on an almost nightly basis, another ceremony called the Dignified Transfer of Remains at Dover Air Force Base, the repatriation ceremony for the remains of soldiers who had been killed in Iraq and Afghanistan. As the officer in charge, I was the first onto the airplane to inspect the caskets, a task I performed all too often. If the flag was damaged, if it had fallen in transit or maybe smudged with grease, we would remove it and replace it with a new one and discard it according to law and regulation. But on my last mission to Dover, before I deployed to Afghanistan, I saved one of those damaged flags to remind me of the sacrifice that young Americans make so that we may live in freedom. That won't be the only time the flag is with us, though, or the only thing it symbolizes. It'll also symbolize resolve. Every American soldier wears the U.S. flag on his right shoulder. It may look backwards, though, reversed. rather than having the Union in the upper left corner, as the flag behind me does, it has the Union in the upper right corner. Some people think it's backwards. It's not. There's a reason for that. In the old days, when soldiers and cavalry still mounted cavalry charges on horseback, the color bearer would carry the flag into battle. And as the charge began, the wind would whip the flag. And if you were on the right side of the charge, the flag would appear reversed, with the Union in the upper right corner. American soldiers wore the flag on their right shoulder, reversed in that fashion, as a reminder and a warning to our adversaries that American soldiers always advance, never retreat. And our enemies need to know America also never retreats. Thank you. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.